Alright guys, welcome to another special log for Digimon Color version 1 and version 2. I've completed raising every single Digimon on version 1 and every single Digimon on version 2 as well, and I've documented all of them. But I'm doing this special video because after raising every single Digimon here, I have precisely 12 advanced tips to share on how to raise precisely the Digimon that you want. And although the evolution requirements are already known and public, but it might be quite difficult to think about how to specifically engineer some of the stats that are required for the evolution. Especially if you are working or you're busy with your schedule, then it's going to be quite difficult to precisely engineer the evolution. So these are the 12 tips that will help you with that. Tip number 1. Limit your care mistakes by sleep evolution. So it's a term that I came up with because there's no actual term, but the fact is that in order to evolve easily and not make any care mistakes or limit your care mistakes, just set your time to a night time, or basically the time when your Digimon sleeps. So for example, Devimon here, he sleeps at 11. I would just set it to a night time for him to sleep. An evolution timer still passes even when it's asleep. So by just constantly resetting the time to a sleeping time every 8 hours or so, basically he's always sleeping. And that means he doesn't get hungry, he doesn't get his strength depleted, and I don't have to worry about having to feed him on time, train him on time to prevent any care mistakes from happening. Just make sure that you just constantly keep him on sleep and you have zero care mistakes. Tip number 2. Track your training and do all of them in one shot. It's easier that way, especially for evolutions that have a minimum number of training but a maximum number of training as well. For example, Seadramon from Betamon requires minimum of 8 training but not more than 31. So then how do you ensure that you don't exceed the upper range? The easiest way I've found is to do them all at one shot. For example, I just do 8 at one shot and just keep it there. Now that's a great thing and a callback to tip number 1 as well. If I do it all at one shot and I get 8 training, I don't have to worry about strength being depleted because it's constantly asleep. So, if it's awake, strength can be depleted and you have to remember to train it. And then when you train it, you're worried about the fact that you're going to exceed the limit because it gets strength depleted too quickly, and then you have to keep training and then you lose track of how many training you have done. It's a combination of tip 1 and 2. Tip 1, keeping it asleep constantly, will limit its hunger or strength being depleted. And then train all of them at one shot, all the requirements that you need for training, and then just use the sleep evolution way to keep all your stats constant. So you don't have to train it any more than you have already done. Now tip number 3 is going to be strange. It's about racking up your care mistakes. So some of the evolutions require you to have a minimum number of care mistakes, but you also don't want too many because having too many care mistakes will make your Digimon pass away. So how do you then control and engineer those care mistakes when you need them to happen? So one method is to use the sleep care mistake method. So one of the easier way, especially if you're really busy, is just to set it to a sleeping time, like you just constantly change the time, right? And just leave it like this. And you leave the light on for 1 hour, it will register as 1 care mistake. So if you don't want to keep losing track of how many care mistakes you need to be making, right? Just do this. 1 hour later, the call sign will go off and you will know that that care mistake has been registered. And once that is done, you just go back to the timer and set it to morning, and then just set it to a night time again, and it will call for you to put it to sleep again, and then just wait 1 more hour and you'll register a second care mistake. That's one way to rack up care mistakes by using the sleep mechanism. Tip number 4 is actually my favorite way to rack up care mistakes because it's faster. So there's a faster way to rack up care mistake, which is by using the save function. So for example, Devimon here, I need to rack up some care mistakes quickly. So what I can do is I can just use the save function and switch. Now what actually happens is that when I do this switch, right, I'm switching to the alternative Digimon that I also have my backup slot. If you don't have another Digimon, you will just hatch another egg. That's fine, just wait for the egg to hatch. And then once it's done, just switch it back. Now what actually happens is that when I switch it back and forth, Devimon's stats are now completely depleted. So as you can see here, his hunger meter is 0 and his strength meter is 0. And then I just leave it here. 10 minutes later, what will happen is that because both his hunger and strength are depleted, it will register as 2 chemistics when that call sign goes off. So I basically managed to rack up 2 chemistics within 10 minutes. And once that's done, I need another 2 chemistics. All I need to do is just repeat the same process and switch it over once the call sign is off 10 minutes later. I'll repeat the same process and then I'll be able to get up another 2. So many of the evolutions require more than 4 chemistics. That's how I did it. I managed to just do 2 rounds of this and I get 4 chemistics that I need within 20 minutes. Tip number 5 is also one of my favorite. Where the evolution requires overfeeding, I rack up overfeed counts by using the save function as well. So as you can see, because I've depleted his strength meter, I can now feed him till he's overfed. Now the problem about once he's overfed, and I'm just going to demonstrate here live right now. Once he's overfed, he doesn't want to eat anymore. And then I have a problem because I don't know how long I have to wait. And sometimes I know there's a timing behind it, but it's just going to take so long. And if I want to do it all at one shot and keep track of the number of overfeeding, it's quite hard to keep track throughout the day. I mean, I can wait 1 hour later and probably I can try to feed him again, but sometimes I might lose count. So the other way that I prefer and the easiest way I found is that now that he is overfed, I can no longer feed him and I don't know when I can do that again. I can just use the save function. So doing the same thing, I just switch it over to the other Digimon. And then once it's switched, I just switch it back. So the moment I switch it back, what happens is that once again, Devimon's hunger meter is entirely depleted. And that means he's ready for another round of overfeeding immediately. So that's how I've been doing it, where I need 4 counts of overfeeding. For example, I just need to do this and now it's completely depleted. I can just feed him till he's overfed. That will count as 2 counts of overfeeding, you see? So it's really very fast, it's almost instantaneous. So that's the 5th tip. Tip number 6 is to rack up sleep disturbances immediately and quickly. So and then just keep track of it and keep count. But it's really very easy. So what you do is just set it to a sleeping time. Just for precaution, I like to do this, but you don't really need to do this. I like to turn off the lights first and then switch it on again. And then I'll just give it a piece of meat. And that's the first sleep disturbance that has happened to poor Devimon. And then I just need to set the time again and he'll be asleep again. And then I'll just do this and then feed him another piece of meat, or pretend to feed him. I don't even actually have to feed him. And then there's 2 sleep disturbances. So just keep changing the time and then you'll rack up the number of sleep disturbances that you actually need. So that's tip number 6. Tip number 7 is something quite common sense and maybe you're already doing it, but just in case for those who don't know, you need to maintain your victory rate for many of your evolutions like Ultimate and Mega, and the easiest way is to always fight only map 1. So you can always choose which map to fight. So if I want to evolve from Champion to Ultimate, I need 80% of victory rate, and if I want to evolve from Ultimate to Mega, I need to maintain 80% as well. And the easiest way is to just fight map 1, because map 1 has the weakest opponents and your chances of winning are much higher. So that's how I usually do it. I just fight on map 1, and you see even in map 1, Digimon can lose as well. So the easiest way is really just to keep fighting map 1. Don't choose any other maps, because honestly their powers just get stronger and stronger as you go on. Alright, and tip number 8 is to reincarnate fast after you evolve. So basically, after you've raised a Digimon and you want to move on to the next, the fast way to reincarnate is first to let it die. And the easiest way to let it die I found is to basically give it a protein overdose. So what actually happens here in Digimon Color is that there's a concept of protein overdose. When you feed it 4 pieces of protein, 1, 2, 3, 4, he gets 1 count of protein overdose. That increases his chance of getting injured by 10%. And you just need to do this 8 times. With 8 protein overdose, his chance of getting injured increases by 80%. And then you just battle. And then he'll get injured in one of those battles because of such a high protein overdose, and just leave him injured for 6 hours. And that will be a fast way for him to pass away, and you can move on to the next Digimon. But it does sound really cruel, huh? Tip number 9 is even more cruel. So tip number 9 is how to reincarnate even faster than waiting 6 hours. So if you can't wait for 6 hours, what you can do is to use protein overdose as well, and then just keep fighting, because he has this protein overdose stats of increased chance of 80% of getting injured by constantly fighting the the in-Digimon color battles on their map. Eventually he'll get injured, and just keep racking up the injury count. Once you keep fighting, he'll eventually get injured for 15 times, and that's when he'll pass away almost immediately. So when I did this method, I think most of them, I get through this stage of reincarnation within 1 to 2 hours or so. I think usually less than 1 hour I should get it done. It's quite fast. Now tip number 10 is, once you reincarnate, sometimes there will be a traded egg, and once you obtain that traded egg, honestly save it for the Digimon that you want to keep. So for version 1 and 2, the strongest Digimon and probably the hardest to obtain would be Omegamon Alter S, that's one, and the other would probably be for version 1 Shinmonzaemon, and for version 2 Ebimon, because they are just so hard to raise. So traded egg, why is it so precious? Because firstly, it is rare to obtain. Not every passing of a Digimon lays a traded egg. Only Digimon that has been at ultimate level or mega level will lay a traded egg, and it's only 30% chance that it will actually happen. So in order for you to get a traded egg, is really very hard. Now once you get traded egg, what is so special about traded egg? I mentioned this in the earlier video as well. Traded egg gets additional stats bonus compared to the other Digimon. So the other Digimon, when your strength meter is full, you get an additional stat bonus during battles. The traded egg basically gets twice the stats bonus that the normal Digimon get. So that's really great use of the traded egg for the Digimon that is your favorite and probably the strongest on the devices. Tip number 11 is to use your quest map to save DP. So some of you, I don't know if any of you have noticed, when you use a connection battle, your DP is immediately depleted by 1, and that counts as 1 battle. But for quest map, when you fight, let's say on one map that has 3 enemy Digimon, the interesting thing is that only 1 DP is depleted, but you actually manage to fight 3 Digimon. That counts as 3 battles for the price of 1 DP. So if you're running short on DP, stop using connection battles, just use the map battles. Alright? Because one attempt at one map only depletes 1 DP, but you manage to get to fight multiple Digimon. Tip number 12 is background unlock. So basically there are multiple backgrounds. Alright, so that's the background. You can see first background on the Digimon version 2 is obviously its default background. You will get to unlock the other types of background for the other device. This is actually version 1's background. This will unlock the moment you connect another version to it. So when you connect version 2 to a version 1, version 2 device also gets the version 1 background. So that's cool. And of course, clearly, in order to get version 3, 4 and 5, I will need to connect version 2 to the version 3, 4 and 5 when they're finally released, and I finally obtained that. So in this device, within this code, there are already version 3, version 4 and version 5 backgrounds, and they are not unlockable now because you don't have version 3, 4 and 5. Of course, I have heard of people using ACOM or DCOM, basically like simulator that simulates the data of version 3, 4 and 5, and that is another way that you can unlock, but officially there's no way to unlock version 3, 4 and 5 background now. So aside from the default device backgrounds that are unlockable, there are other unlockable backgrounds as well. The Office default background comes by default. It's available the moment you start up the device. The D1 Grand Prix is available the moment you have fought and won 10 connection battles by connecting to another device. The within device battles don't count. The Gold D1 Grand Prix is unlocked when you have 100 wins against another Digimon via a connection battle as well. So this is not unlockable if you have fought 100 quest maps. It's specifically connection battles. You need to win 100 connection battles. So that's for D1 Grand Prix. The other is Digimon 25th anniversary. This is basically unlocked when you manage to get a mega for the poop line. I call it a poop line, but basically for version 1 it's Numemon, and version 2 it's Vegemon. So the moment Numemon evolves to Monzaemon and then Shin Monzaemon, you will unlock 25th anniversary logo. For the Digimon version 2, it is when you evolve Vegemon to Vedamon and then Evamon respectively, and then you unlock the 25th anniversary logo. Alright, and then we are down to the last few backgrounds. The grid is quite straightforward. It's unlocked the moment you win the first quest map. Digimon Color version 2 or Digimon Color, basically this specific background is unlocked once you have cleared, I think, quest map 4 or something, right, somewhere midpoint. And then the last color burst is when color burst or pixel burst is when you finally defeat the final map, and that's what unlocks this special burst pixel. I think my personal favorites are still the original backgrounds as well as the Grand Prix. I think those looks fantastic, but the rest looks great. Honestly, this pixel, this grid one really reminds me of the scene in Digimon World 1. I don't know if you have seen it. You can always check out the intro in Digimon World 1 on PlayStation. It looks really cool, like the part where they are zooming into the Digimon world. I think I like that a lot as well. But yes, this concludes this video. I have all 12 advanced tips useful for people who want to raise very specific Digimon on Digimon Color version 1 and Digimon Color version 2. Some of the trickier evolutions that require a specific number of chem mistakes, overfeeding, sleep disturbances. I think those tips are really helpful to engineer those stats when you need a very specific band of stats in order to evolve into those specific Digimon. So I hope you found this useful, and if you haven't already, go ahead and slice the like and subscribe button with Transcendent Sword and blast the like and subscribe button with Supreme Cannon from Omegamon. Hopefully we can see Omegamon one day on Digimon Color, but I'm still happy to play the Vital Bracelet as well. And right after this, I'm going to move back onto the Vital Bracelet. Otherwise, thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye!